the chat box so everybody could see that, and we can get started. So nerd, you want to go ahead and talk about what this particular episode is going to be about, and what this stream is about, this talk show is about in general?
Yeah, so we decided we wanted to do a talk show because we feel like there can be just a little bit more content out there that's sort of not just talking about the highest end plays, but talking about the entire Tesla experience. And so that's sort of what our sort of Legends Lounge is about. And we're hoping to build on these first couple episodes, which have been a lot of fun, and there's been some nice buzz about it. So we're pretty excited about that. Today's episode is actually going to be about the new player experience. So is what it's like to be a new player in Elder Scrolls Legends, what Bethesda and Sparky Pants are doing right, maybe some things they can improve on, and how it compares to a lot of the other games competing for your time. So that's sort of the vibe that we're going for here, and that's the sort of the points we're going to be touching on.
Awesome. So let's go on ahead and go straight into the talk show. Just a couple of the things that we're going to be going about. Just like he said, we're going to be talking, just answering a lot of frequently asked questions that I see all the time about Elder Scrolls Legends on the subreddit, on Discords, on the Elder Scrolls Discord. I see a lot of that stuff. We're also going to see how it compares to other CCG, and one of the things that gets asked a lot, so I think we're going to spend a lot of time on this, is how free to play is it really? We know that you can download it for free, but when people ask a question, is this game free to play? They're not just asking if the game is free, but they're also asking, how much do I actually have to invest my real life money, your hard earned money, to play this game? And so we're going to talk about that. So let's go on ahead and answer some of these basic questions. Starting with the first one: what is Elder Scrolls Legends? I know might be an odd question because some of you guys here who are watching probably already know what Elder Scrolls Legends is, but this is a frequently asked question, especially for new players. So, yeah, Elder Scrolls Legends, in a gist, is a CCG based off of the Elder Scrolls Legends series, and it introduces a two-lane mechanic. We will kind of explain more of that maybe later in the video, but more or less, a two-lane mechanic is, you, instead of having one board that you play everything on, you have two boards that you play on, and it changes somewhat of the strategy of how you approach this. So you can only attack creatures in one lane, and while the other lane you can only attack creatures in that lane. We'll explain more of that possibly later in the video. So let's go on ahead, and do you have anything that you want to add on to that?
No, I just think that the main thing is that it's the biggest selling point, I think, is that it's based on Skyrim, and Oblivion, and these other very popular, RPG games. And so I think you bring a lot of people in interested about, because they see Elder Scrolls and want to know what it is. And so it's a card game with all your favorite characters in it. And I mean, that's the gist of it. You get to play Lydia, who blocks not just the one lane but two lanes, because she's always getting in the way of their doors. It's so filled with all these little joke cards and references to some of the games that it's pretty awesome. And I think it has done a good job of being a worthy tribute to the fame of the Elder Scrolls series.
So let's go on and answer the question I think that we're going to spend the most time on is this game free to play? I guess it just depends on what kind of player you are. Just at the forefront. So
Yeah.
and it also depends on like how much time you're really willing to invest into the game. So I could say for me myself, I spend 2 to 4 hours a day playing this game every day of the week, regardless, because I always have my phone on me. I always have a little bit of time to kill in the afternoon. So I have time to play it, so I get some of the in-game rewards. But somebody who might only have an hour a day, because they're so busy at work, may not want to put that kind of time investment, but they might be willing to put more of a cash investment. And that's not to say that I haven't put any money in the game either. I like to give money to the developers, and that's not to guilt trip anybody else for saying for being a free to play player. Some people just can't afford it, but I like to give money to the developers. So, at the end of the week on like a Friday, like when Frostbark came out, I didn't save up for it. I knew it was coming out ahead of time, and I was like, I'm just gonna buy it.
Yeah.
I'm already saving up gold to get the rest of Clockwork City. So I still got all of Clockwork City for free. But when Frostbark came out, I bought that with real cash. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, no, so I think there's a difference between like free to play and pay to win, but they're not mutually exclusive. And I think that this and the digital card game is actually both, right? So you don't have to, you can play this game and you'll get enough cards to play this game without ever having to spend any money. And like me, and I'm actually except for like $20, I'm a free to play player, and I haven't spent money in 2 years on this game, right? So, um, and I have mostly a full collection. There's still some stuff I'm missing, but I have several top tier decks. I can compete and have competed in high level events against people with full collections. So it's you don't have to put money into this game, but in a sense, it is pay to win, right? Because since you can put money into this game and go and get cards and the better cards faster than someone who is just sort of going to plug through and do their daily quests, and you'll get a daily quest which can range from I think 40 to 100 gold. And it's random, and you can replace it once per day, and it will ask you to do something like play 5 werewolves. Okay, you play the 5 werewolves, boom, you get your gold. You can spend your gold on packs or an arena run, which has rewards, or eventually save them up for exclusive sets like the Frostfall collection or starter decks. So like there's a lot you can spend that in-game currency on, and you collect that in-game currency either by spending actual money or by simply playing the game. And I think that it's not, and it's, there are plenty of people who could make the argument and probably persuade me that it's an exploitative system, but I just don't believe it. Because just by playing the game that you like, you will eventually get all the stuff. And especially if you're smart about how you spend that money, you can basically get to the point where you have everything you need for a couple really cool decks within a month or so. Yeah, I think the way that you put it in the outline, Broski, you said it's play to win. I think that was actually really cool. I was thinking about it. At first I thought it was a typo, but then I was like, oh no, I really like how that sounds. Play to win, and I think that's a perfect sort of summation of the question of, is it free to play? It's play to win.
Right. So actually, my first YouTube video, and I would not recommend anybody go look at it. I'm actually kind of embarrassed of it, but that's what I said. It was kind of like it was a how do people get plugged into the community? How does people get into the game? And so I kind of talked about, is this game free to play? And one of the things I brought up was this game is play to win for sure. Yes, you can go into the game the first month that you play it, and you want to go in and hit top tier legend and spend $50 on the game, and you'll get all the good cards. But you know what, honestly though, you're not gonna you spending money to lose. There's so many there's so many game mechanics that you need to learn before you actually hit the legend ranks. Just from my personal experience, I mean, I was lucky enough to make it my second month, and by the time I made it my second month, the only thing I had bought was the Dark Brotherhood expansion, right? And I only have one set from that, and the Camlorn Hero set, which I'll be honest, I have two of the cards from that. But even then, I don't even think that's necessary. And I struggled that month. I don't even think I got to my second month playing, the second season that I played. I don't even think I got to Legend until towards the end of the season, because it's not. It just like with any other strategy game, you can't just dive right in there and know how to beat everybody. You still have to learn the meta. I put 50, 60 hours into the game, even with the $30 I put into the game before I even touch Legend. So for a person who doesn't want to spend any money at all, I still think that you could spend 50 to 60 hours, just like Broski did, and make it to Legend. But that just comes with the huge learning curve of investing into the game, learning the meta, learn what decks work best for you, and learn the playstyle. Go to the community, ask for advice. So yeah, definitely, I say it's definitely more play to win than pay to win. We're going to talk about this later, but there are definitely more games that are more lenient on giving you cards, and there's obviously more games, CCGs out there, that are more like, hey, you have to pay obviously to win, like Magic the Gathering Arena, from what I've seen of it. I do want to say this. This is an example I have here in the notes. I said at minimal, you get 3 wins, you get 15 to 45-ish gold, right? That's give or take. 15 is the minimal, and then it goes all the way up, and that's kind of where I say give or take, which it rarely stays at 15, which is the minimal. So if you play this game for 10 days, you will probably be round up to if you play this game for like 10 days straight, you'll probably get up to 1,000 gold if you invest at least 15 games a day. So that's just saying approximately you play one match is about 10 minutes long. You play for 2 hours, you lose about 5 games, right? You're getting 100 gold a day, and that can actually buy you, in 10 days, that's buying you an act in the story set. So that's just something to look into. If you're already spending 2 hours a day in this game, Take the
Yeah.
time to learn the game, spend the time on the ladder, and get your daily rewards, get
Yeah,
your
and I think that
wins.
that number isn't including the daily quests.
Hmm.
At least if I'm looking at this math right, that's not even including your daily quest, which can itself be up to 100 gold.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Daily quests can be up to 100 gold. And from my experience, I don't know if it's the same for everybody, but when you first start the game, the daily quests are easier. At least I found. Now I'm like having difficulty, but it was like simple stuff like silence a creature, hit the enemy, so many times, and then it changes like after I put probably about 50 hours. It's like win with Tribunal, and I don't even have a Tribunal deck, and I'm like, oh gosh, I mean, how am I supposed to win with this? So especially when you're starting the game, they are a little bit, at least in my experience, they were a little bit more gracious with giving you daily quests that were a little bit easier for newer players. So I would definitely say this game, just like I've kind of beat upside the head a few times, it's play to win more than it is pay to win. You can pay to win, but that's only very limited because you still got to learn the gameplay mechanics. So you going ahead your first week, you drop $100 into the game, and you don't know any of the mechanics. You're gonna feel really really foolish for not hitting legend within your first season because it's just not gonna happen.
Yeah, and I don't think hitting legends should be like the end all be all goal for all players. I think that a lot of players just want something. I mean, the way I got into this game was that I had played several and at least the way I got into digital card games, I started with Hearthstone, came over here. Now I play both sort of casually. I can play Hearthstone casually and I play Elder Scrolls, somewhat competitively. But like it was because I had played a physical card game called Versus System for years, and the Versus System sort of got ended, and the developer stopped producing it and stopped making new sets. And I didn't have a card game to play, and I didn't play Magic. I tried it out, didn't really like it, didn't really get good vibes from the community of Magic that I was around. So I didn't have a card game to play, and that was really bumming me out. And I heard about Hearthstone. I said, "Hey, I'll give Hearthstone a try," and eventually got my way over to Elder Scrolls. I played some Gwent. So the bottom line is, some people just want it because they have that connection with card games, so they don't have the people to play with. And so I think that Broski's right. I think if you just step in and try to learn the game and try to enjoy it and look at all the really cool interactions you can do. Don't fixate. This is just from a player perspective. Don't fixate on rank. At least at first, until you like the game. Otherwise, it won't be as fun. Like enjoy getting a cool combo off or playing a really big dragon or something like that, because that's what really brings people back and wanting to play more card games. And I think that like it's the joy of the game. And so for new players, just a personal advice: don't fixate on ranking up or hitting legend, especially early on when you don't have all the cards. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. I think this is something that I've said before too. Is one of the cool things is about the ranking system in Elder Scrolls Legends is if you're stuck on rank 9, that's a good thing because you're playing against other players that are just as good as you are. And that's not to talk bad about you. That's not to say, hey, you're at rank 9 and you suck. No, that's really cool because you get to experience the game that are with other people that are just as talented as you. So
Yeah.
just because you're not hitting the legend ranks, um, doesn't mean that you can't have a good time. I've spent my first season. I spent weeks on rank 7, and I still enjoyed it. I still enjoyed every moment, experimenting, changing things with the deck. So don't feel ashamed, just like Broke Nerd said, to be stuck on a rank for a while. Enjoy the game, enjoy it for what it is, because that's what a
Hmm.
game is made for. I think we
Yeah.
get so wrapped up in just in video games in general, not just Elder Scrolls Legends. We get so wrapped up on trying to make games and movies more than what they're actually supposed to be, when in reality it's a game. So not to say that you can't be a competitive player, not to say that you can't be a movie critic, not to say that you couldn't have expected more from Star Wars Battlefront 2, but there's no shame in a person coming to Star Wars Battlefront 2 and legitimately enjoying it. So legitimately enjoy Elder Scrolls Legends. Go on ahead and
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
So you were kind of talking about other CCGs, which actually brings up our next topic. How does this game actually compare to other CCGs? I'm gonna go on ahead and answer that real quick. You got a lot more history with that, so I'm just gonna say all I've played is Magic the Gathering. I've never played Hearthstone. I've never played Gwent. I've never played any of these other ones. Maybe I should one day, but I just don't care to. And I played Magic the Gathering from 2012 to 2015, 16 ish. And I think my last season was when the dinosaurs were out. I don't remember what it was called, but then I was kind of like, you know what, I'm done. This is just, it's been a long ride, and I was a teenager, and all of my money's gone. I think I'm done. And Magic the Gathering, what people ask me like, how does this compare? And all I can really say is, in comparison, they have cards, and there's a health bar, but I don't really see how it compares to anything else. So I think this is more of a question for Dead Broke Nerd, answering questions about the mechanics, the community, the design, just in general for all of the other CCGs he's played. So go on ahead and take the spotlight.
Oh boy. Well, it's a complex question, right? So trying to compare to other CCGs is tough. I mean, ultimately, like I can say this is better than this, but that's just my opinion. Somebody else might, disagree. I mean, from a mechanics perspective, I can really do is highlight the differences. And I think we're planning on doing that a little bit later in the thing, I think. But the bottom line is like there are very unique mechanics that are very unique to Legends. Um, the two-lane system, which no other game that I've played, at least none of the main games have. Um, the prophecy rune system, which I think is brilliant. And as frustrating as it can be when you hit a first rune prophecy, it's because it's a balancing act, and it's there to make the game not a snowbally game, which I have to say, like so many other games are, and there's no way to get back into it. And I think that um, the predominance of the rune system has allowed, and from the get-go has said, we don't want this to be a game, we want this to be a game that has a comeback mechanic, so the truly the best player with the best deck makes it out, not just whatever that crazy explosive start is, and sometimes that still happens, but I think so. From a mechanics perspective, it has that. I think that if we talk about community, that's where I think I really have some input on it. I think Elder Scrolls Legends has a pretty invested community. And I say invested because I don't want it to have a negative or positive connotation one way or the other. You have a lot of people that are amazing community content creators. You have people who are absolutely love and adore this game and want to see this game succeed, want to put up tournaments. I mean, you have the whole Warp Meta tournament where people have poured in a ton of time, and I mean, I've just barely scratched the surface. I casted one tournament, but it was just a volunteer effort, I think, on a lot of people, where they just want to see this game succeed, and they want to see people enjoy it. There's so many times where people would do like new player streams to help people out, and I've seen like two people in the last couple of weeks advertise their stream for like, hey, we're gonna have a new player segment, so if you're new, can come and ask any question, no judgments, we'll help you build a deck, whatever. So I think there's a lot of that out there. I think there's also a lot of people out there that are very quick to judgment when it comes to things on the side of the developers. And this game has not always been run very efficiently. So before, and I don't want to blame it all on Direwolf. I think that would be
Unfair.
not fair. But I think Bethesda for a time was just sort of sitting back and waiting to see if it took off, which is not how you run a game. You invest in the game, you give that game opportunities, and I think we're just now starting to see that transition over into Bethesda saying, you know what, we've learned from our mistakes a little bit, and we're willing to pour a little bit more time and effort. They switched developers over to Sparky Pants to sort of revitalize it. They hired a community manager that actually, not to throw shade or anything, that's not what I'm doing, but a community manager who is the best choice for the job in CVH. And so I think that we're going to be seeing it be reinvested in and sort of come back to the level of, I guess, community investment that games like Hearthstone and Magic have. Now, Gwent, I've just played Gwent. I have not even gone on the Reddit page, but I can say that like Gwent is another game that I think is very unique. It's sort of getting another sort of overhaul. Like Hearthstone is the pillar of the digital card games, and I don't even think it's as good of a game as this. But what they do get right is they have invested, and because it's a Blizzard and they're too big to fail, honestly, they've invested very successfully in strengthening Hearthstone, both from a competitive perspective and also from a community perspective. And I think that everyone else sort of following suit there. So I don't know if that was a very good answer. I will say that when it comes to digital card games in general, it is a much better use of your money, and probably you're if you consider that time equals money, and you're considering that money, it, it's a better investment from a purely monetary perspective than a physical card game like Magic. Now I haven't played Magic the Gathering Arena, but keep in mind, I still do play a physical card game called Legend of the Five Rings, and I do it because I have very good friends and a great community locally that I want to put the money into to play with those people in real life. And that is something you don't get with a digital card game. So I don't know. I've just sort of rambled for a while, and I hope there was some useful information somewhere in there.
One thing that I want to add on to your tangent. Now I'm just playing. To your to your speech was the I wanted to focus on the community, and the reason why I want to focus on the community is because, and it's simply just to say this: I love the community of Elder Scrolls Legends, and if he is so right when he says that people are invested into this community, and that can make for some really really positive reactions and some really
Yeah.
really negative reactions. But I've seen mostly positive, and I say that because people look to the content creators, and the content creators I've seen are very positive people. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna go on ahead and pretty much talk about everybody's Legends role model, the Justin Larson here, right?
Hmm.
He's pretty much owned the YouTube field. Very humble guy, first off. And whenever the new client came out, and this is kind of going to the new the next question. The next question is, I heard the game sucks with the new client. Is that true? When the new client came out, there was really really buggy. It had a lot of issues. That's whenever Direwolf had left. This was another development studio. Bethesda came in and they gave it to Sparky Pants so they can have somebody that reacts faster. And so
Hmm.
when this thing came in, everybody gave it bad reviews on Steam. Everybody talked negatively about it, and it was such a short-sighted way of looking at it. And then you have Justin Larson, and I remember this because I just came to this game 3 weeks before the new client. And when the game first came out, I was like, oh my gosh, you know. And Justin Larson said on his YouTube channel, the day of the new client, he says, you know what, there's something that we can look forward to, and that's a future. And we never had that with Direwolf. And so that
Yeah.
encouraged the Legends community, the people that are actually invested. Like, of course, there was a ton of people who just like came into the game just so they can criticize it and leave. That's the internet everywhere. You know, that's your
Yeah.
trolls. But as far as the actual community, what I've seen, the heart of the community, Warrior 7, the Justin Larson, CVH, these people, they fight for the community. They're standing by for uh, Sparky Pants. And to be quite frank with everybody, it really is bringing a future. I think the first patch, 200 plus patch notes. The second patch, 200 plus patch notes. I think we have a third one coming soon with 200 plus patch notes. They know that there was issues when the new client came out, and they're not wasting their time.
Yeah. Well, it also, so just from the unbiased perspective with the regards to the new client, it looks like Bethesda put Sparky Pants on a time schedule. And so when it came time to release, they weren't quite ready, and there was a lot of problems. But honestly, it looks really good now, and it plays really well. I will occasionally find a couple bugs, but nothing that break. And I stream, 16 to 20 hours a week. So like, I would, if something was a problem that was made it unplayable, I wouldn't be streaming it. And for the first week, I went over and streamed Gwent just because I couldn't play it. There was too many bugs. But that's gone now. They've quickly fixed it. They've been very like reactive into the community's complaints. They've been like saying, "Oh, hey, we'll check out this bug." Somebody says, "Hey, this happened. All right, let's go check it out." And I think it's been fixed way faster than anyone expected, way faster than it would have with Direwolf. And I think that ultimately, like the product we're left with is it's beautiful. It's way nicer to look at.
It's easier
The
on the
both the
eyes
board
too.
and everything. Like, yeah, it's pretty.
Yeah, I would.
Um,
Sorry,
no, go
I
ahead.
definitely want to like add on to the fact that it does look good. Before we kind
Yeah.
of had, it looked like whenever, and this isn't to throw shade under Direwolf's card game, it kind of looked like a third party
Hmm.
CCG, and
A
then
little bit.
Sparky Pants comes in, and it almost looks like a AAA board game. I mean, this
Yeah.
is kind of, it's like Hearthstone level board game, while what we had previously was like your Android free download game.
Yeah.
So I really think that just visually, and this isn't talking about all the other issues, just visually, it's easier on the eyes because you have a darker screen. You have things to
Yeah.
play on the screen, and not only that, just mechanically it flows better. It's a beautiful game.
Well, they've overhauled a lot of the visual effects, and you can even see, and we talked about this in the last episode, that with all the new cards that have come out, each one seems to have an extremely unique visual effect. That you can see that it's clearly a priority that they want. When people play a card, they want them to get excited, not just about the value of the card on the board, but also about what happens when it comes in. So like, and some people didn't like this, but they overhauled some of the voice lines. They have put like they've got the Sword of the Inferno animation is so cool, right? And so you can see that that's a priority going forward, where that was never really a priority before. Which I think that sort of, and if we go off again the Hearthstone standard, the Hearthstone visual effects have always been an emphasis.
So continuing on, let's go ahead and answer the next question. I think we answered that pretty well as far as the new client and how does this game compare to CCGs. And I think we could talk about this all day long, but we're limited for time. So let's go to move into the next question. Does Bethesda actually care about Elder Scrolls Legends? Yes, 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 yes. I think the reason why people ask this kind of question is because when you look at Legends, or if you look at anything, just like let's look at things in general, not just in Elder Scrolls, but whenever usually a AAA company releases a mobile client kind of game, it's always set on the back burner, and I don't think that's the case for Bethesda because they had the opportunity to get rid of it whenever instead of getting a new client they could have just been like, all right, well, we don't want to release more content, but instead they went out of their way to give us a new, for them as well, to get to put a new developer that can actually react faster. And we just talked about that. They added all of these patches so fast. They hired a community manager, as Dead Broke Nerd said, the misqualified CVH, Christian Van Hoos. He is great. So if they didn't care, they could have abandoned it. They had every excuse to abandon it, but they didn't.
Yep.
So I definitely think that Bethesda actually does care about Elder Scrolls Legends, and any new player coming into Elder Scrolls Legends shouldn't be worried that you're going to invest your time and your money into a game that's going to disappear in a week. I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, completely agree. Nothing more to add on that, honestly. It's true.
All right. Well, is Legends worth getting as a new player? Abso-freaking-lutely. That's kind of biased because I'm a Legend streamer. Dead Broke Nerd is a Legend streamer. So if you're coming into this stream and expecting us to say no, there's just too much bias. So
Yeah.
but with that bias, I'm gonna still give you my biased opinion. My biased opinion is I got this game about 3 months ago. I'm super plugged into the community. I mean, I'm really like enriched into the community. I'm and not only am I enriched with it in the community, I'm talking to other people that like almost on a friend level that you would think I've been to other communities. So for example, I've been in the Skyrim community. I know who the top streamer is there. And it's almost as if he forgets me, and he averages 150 to 200 viewers. But then when I talk to the guy who averages 150 to 200 viewers on Elder Scrolls Legends, we're pals. Like, he knows me.
Yeah.
He knows Major Broski. And that is so freaking awesome. And for you competitive players out there, I don't like to brand myself as a competitive player, but I really love playing the ladder, so I don't know. Within 2 months, I made 304 Legend, and this was last month. So if you get, for you guys that really want to get in the competitive side and really want to try to get to the top of the ladder, get in the top 100, it's not like it's going to be the hardest investment of time or money to do that. So yeah, I already kind of asked this earlier. I want to ask this in a different way because I got the notes here and I don't really like the way that it's written. So what I want to ask in a different way is how is Legends worth getting into as a new player in comparison to other CCGs, like getting into Hearthstone or getting into Gwent? How does that compare?
Well, okay, so I think it's so from a purely like in-game economy perspective, Elder Scrolls Legends is less expensive than Hearthstone. From what I hear, it's less expensive than Magic the Gathering Arena. It is a bit more expensive than Gwent and Eternal, which are a little bit more generous, I think, with like early cards and Eternal. Although now Eternal's always had their drop system online. Elder Scrolls Legends drop system coming back, at least for the unknowable amount of time in the future. We don't know when it's going to get shut off again, to be honest, which is, I think, a bit of confusion unless there's been an announcement on Reddit that I didn't see. But I think so I think it's a fairly, Hearthstone is the big money churner, and like that one's hard to justify unless you have expendable income or a lot of time on your hands to grind. Because Hearthstone is not as generous as these other games, and they can afford to do that because it's the top dog. But I will say that from a complication perspective, from a mechanical perspective, it has some intricacies that do take a while to pick up and embrace. The 2-lane mechanic being the largest one, and the ability of like trying to figure out which lane you should prioritize, or when to move over from one lane to another. And then you have the prophecy rune mechanics that sort of make it so that, if you're playing an aggressive deck, you have to understand that your opponent's going to have more cards than you, and vice versa. Or embracing like the cover mechanic and understanding like, wow, like there's a whole lane here that you put down and boom, it's put in cover. And it's not going to be it can't be touched by your opponent's minions for a while. It's kind of like stealth, but any creature can get it. And so I think there's a lot of things that you have to learn, whereas Hearthstone's one lane, Gwent's sort of straightforward. Gwent is much more deck building, deck design than really it is execution. It's more like a puzzle, and than it is like a the adaptability, the flexibility that Elder Scrolls sort of highlights. And I think Eternal seems to be a little bit more straightforward too. So I think this is the game that if you're a Magic player looking for the most sort of complex or interesting or unique or different, and you want to thrive and you want to use, you want to learn something new and experience something new that you've never really touched before, I think Elder Scrolls is probably the closest you can get of these, that also will sort of take your experience as an experienced card game player or gamer, and leverage that. So if you're someone that you want to play a game competitively, this is a great choice because it's complex and it gives you an edge the more you know about the game. Yeah, so I guess that's sort of when it compares to is it worth getting into a new player, those are the factors that you consider.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with Dead Broke Nerd in saying that it is. I played, like I said, I haven't played any of the other CCGs, but I played Magic the Gathering for about 5-6 years, right? And the thing that really has my attention with Elder Scrolls Legends is, and the fact that I love about Elder Scrolls Legends is it adds a new player dynamic that I didn't have in Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering was a lot about deck building, and I enjoyed that aspect. But let's just keep it real here. If there wasn't, because there was no runes like there is in Elder Scrolls Legends,
Yeah.
no good. Because it really was more RNG than anything else. And Elder Scrolls Legends, and the thing that I absolutely love about Legends is that it not to say that deck building is important, it definitely is, and it is part of the puzzle. But there's also this part of the puzzle of giving the person who's at a disadvantage a chance.
Yeah.
The person who's at a disadvantage for RNG to get a chance, because you got 5 runes to go through. I would say at least a minimal of 4, because some people like to break through that last one real quick. So like a minimal of 4. That's 4 extra draws that you wouldn't have had even at a deck where you don't have any draw cards. And that's very gracious. And then the 2-lane mechanic allows you to get hits to the face in a lane that your opponent might not have any enemies. So it adds another dynamic where it's not strictly RNG. And that's not to say that there isn't any strategy with Magic the Gathering. You got to pick what card you should play out of your hand. But I would definitely say, at least in my experience, I find there to be a lot more strategy than in Elder Scrolls Legends. Some people might disagree with that. I'm cool with that. But I find Elder Scrolls Legends more strategic.
At least half your deck doesn't have to be lands. So that's nice.
That is a blessing.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move this from the some of the frequently asked questions to the general discussion. And one of the things that I kind of wanted to talk about was what new players should do when they first start the game. And I want to emphasize this first point a whole lot, and that is playing through the story. Play through the story. Play through the story. Because it's going to teach you the gameplay mechanics. It's not going to teach you how to play against people online, because there's a whole other meta that's going on with that. But it teaches you the mechanics of the game. How does a 2-lane work? Broski and Dead Broke Nerd have been talking about these runes. What are runes? You don't have lands? That's because you get a Magicka pool every single. It adds to that Magicka every single turn.
Yeah.
So play the story. It's gonna help you out. And I've had people tell me, well, the story's difficult. Good, because you need to spend time learning how to play the game. And honestly,
Yeah.
and this isn't to like be mean to other people, the AI isn't necessarily the smartest right now. I know they're
No.
trying to fix it, but with that being said, the AI is actually not that smart. And once you realize that, like once you learn how the AI works, it's almost predictable. I would say 90% of the time, like what the AI is going to do. And so once you learn that, the story is really not that hard. And that's not to say that it's not hard for you, but once you learn it, I'm telling you, once you learn it, how the AI works, you're gonna get through the story just fine, and you're gonna learn all the gameplay mechanics, and it's gonna expand your deck library.
Well, yeah, it gives you a bucket of cards. Like by the time you finish, it'll give you just a decent foundation of cards for each of the colors, and it'll also give you like I want to say like two legendaries that you could get out, that you can get that will be useful. Maybe not right away, but so play the story. It's not that hard. It really isn't. And once so like if you're having a hard time with the story, you must be missing something. And so go and look and listen to their directions and play through the little tutorial, and you'll figure it out. And then it'll be like, oh, okay, and then it'll be easy again.
Right.
Um,
And
so
it's like, just to emphasize here what Deborah Nerd said, it's not like you said, it might be hard to you, but once you figure it out, it's it's just that moment. So sorry
yeah.
for interrupting you going ahead.
No, that's all I had to say.
Okay.
Just play the story. There's so many people I try to help. I'll be like, they'll be like, hey, I'm new and I'm trying to figure out a deck. I'm like, okay, well, let's look at your cards. And it's like, did you finish playing the story? No. Play the
Yeah,
story.
play the
It's
story.
not. It's not. It's actually. I think that like it's not a short story either. It takes a couple hours to get through, which is for me that was nice. That was fun. So just finish the story. It'll be easier.
All right,
That's
so continuing on, I would say, so once you play through the story, and you can almost do this simultaneously, but I did it in this way, and I think this way actually works because once you learn the gameplay mechanics, you won't be a complete knucklehead. And that's not to say that you shouldn't ask questions, but I would say spend some time, on the ladder after the story and seek online help. I would not recommend going to casual because there will be players that are actually better than you and they have way better decks, and that's not going to help you learn how to play the game. You spend time in versus arena, you're going to have to build a deck every single time, and you lose those decks after you lose. So just don't do that. Like, spend your time on the ladder after you're done with the story, and that's when you start going into the community. Go on YouTube, watch CVH's old YouTube videos, watch Justin Larson's YouTube videos, go watch streams, go on the Reddit, join the Discord, ask Dead Broke Nerd questions, ask New Broski. I know a little bit, at least, okay? Because we want to help. We do. And a lot of the people in the community want to help. And I've emphasized this before in my first terrible YouTube video. You can go join the Discord, and they have people that are in there, like Justin Larson, just talking with everybody like it's nothing. And he's willing to help you guys out. Like, it's crazy just how like close this community is and how networked it is that you can actually spend the time. Logic, he's actually in the chat right now, as you guys can see on the screen. Logic's helped me build my first mid Sork deck. So there are people in this community that's willing to help you out, and that's not to say that you take everybody's advice for face value, because you also have to learn what you need to do as your own player. So sometimes somebody will give you advice for a deck and they'll be like, well, that card really sucks, but it has been winning you games left and right. Like, yeah, that dude might have 3 years of experience, but whatever's working for you is working for you, so stick with that card. Right? So don't be embarrassed to ask people for help, because that's what's going to make you develop as a new player. Before we get to the next point, is there something that you want to add to spending time in the community and playing through the story and playing the ladder?
The only other thing is you should definitely play solo arena, because solo arena is kind of like the AI from the story that's sort of like cranked up a notch just a little bit. And the AI will get better and better the more arena runs you do, the more successful you go. But if you take a solo arena run, especially it'll help you learn the game. I think they give you one solo arena run for free right at the beginning. So it'll help you learn some of the cards that are in there. You may not have draft a good deck, but hopefully you'll do well enough to at least get a few wins. And just by doing that, just by going through the solo arena, you will get more rewards, more cards. You'll by default get one pack. So 100 gold is worth a pack in the store, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for 150 gold, you can do an arena run. And arena runs take more time, right? But what they do is you'll get, at the end, if you got 4 wins on your arena run, you'll get a pack guaranteed, about 75 gold and some dust, and the dust or soul gems, which will help you craft. So you'll already come out of that. It's a better use of your gold from the beginning to do solo arenas than anything else. And the only other thing I have to say about this for a new player when they start the game, once you've got some cards and you're looking to build a deck and you're not sure what to do, you can go and ask people, but you can also go to legends-decks.com, which is a deck repository. All the players will post their decks, and some are good, some are bad, some are not. But what you can do is go over to the search bar and type budget. So if you want to play a warrior deck, but you don't have a lot of the cards, and you're looking at all the top decks, there's all these legendaries and epics that you don't have, type budget. And what will show up is people who have intentionally designed the best warrior deck they can without a lot of legendaries and epics. And so that should help you get started. And I mean that's the best way, I think, to get an early deck list, unless you have someone that is willing to just sit down and work through your limited collection with you.
All right, let's go ahead and continue through this. We got about 15 minutes left, so I have a meeting for work I gotta go to, guys. So no offense to Deborah Nerd or the community. So we're gonna kind of fly through some of these notes if that's all right with you. Just because of time restraints. So one of the things I definitely want to say is keep up with whether or not they're gonna have Twitch drops. They're doing it on the weekends right now, but they took it off for a while. So as long as you're having Twitch drops, I accidentally left it on for 1 week at one time. Go on ahead and lurk on streamers. And I'm not just saying this as a content creator. I'm not just saying this as a streamer. But if you lurk on that, they're gonna give you free stuff. That's packs. That's gold. That's soul gems. They give you all of that. Okay. So continuing on, let's go ahead and talk about what a player should buy and not buy. I think a player should buy. This is just my things. 500, and this is with in-game currency. Okay, a player should buy 500 gold card packs. I'm talking about the decks, not just the packs. I'm talking about the decks. Okay, we're gonna talk about not buying. I'm against buying the packs, and I'm gonna explain my reasoning behind that. Some people might disagree with me. I'm against it. Story sets are about 1,000 gold a piece, and the collections. This includes the Forgotten Hero, the Madhouse collection. Now we have the Frostbark collection. Is there anything that you want to add on to that?
No, just outside of the fact that there are the 1,000 gold decks, and they are not as good of a value as the 500 gold decks, even though you get more cards. So for the 1,000 gold starter decks, you'll get 75 cards. For the 500 gold packs, you'll get 50 cards. So obviously, if you're going to go through this, you would want to get, unless you specifically want a specific card, which again, if you're doing that, you're not maximizing your collection efficiency, which you don't have to do, right? But we're just talking from an efficiency perspective. Go after the 500 gold starter packs first, and it'll also be more fun because you'll get them quicker and you'll be able to play with some of the cards. For the record, I highly recommend Ankano's Cunning, because Ankano is a starter deck legendary. You can get it from packs, but he's a really, really, really powerful blue legendary, and he's seen play in nearly every blue deck. So Ankano's Cunning, there you go.
All right. Let me talk about a little bit why I do not like buying the packs for 150 gold. You get more rewards in arena, and you get more packs.
They're 100 gold.
They're 100 gold? Oh, excuse me. Packs are 100 gold. Excuse me.
Yeah.
The packs are 100 gold. But to get into arena, that's why I have this note like this, okay?
Yeah.
Packs are 100 gold, right? You save up the extra 50 gold, you go into arena, they get you gameplay experience, number one. Number two, they give you multiple packs. They give you multiple rewards. This includes gold and soul gems. Just don't waste your time spending the 100 gold. I mean, you might disagree with me, and if you got like tens of thousands of gold or whatever, that's fine. But I'm talking about specifically for new players. I would not recommend doing this. This is just me. You can disagree with me on this, but I don't think that is a good thing for a new player to do, is to invest their in-game currency with this, especially when they're limited. Save up the extra 50 gold, go to the arena, and get the extra rewards. I think even if you get like 2 wins, they drop you at least 2 packs.
You'll break even with like 2 wins or 3 wins. It depends, and they're somewhat randomized. You won't get the same thing for each tier, but like with 2 to 3 wins, you'll pretty much break even. Right, so your 150 gold will have been worth 150 gold, right? But anywhere past 3 wins or so, and you're getting a larger return on your investment than you would have with a pack.
Mm-hmm. So, let's go on ahead. These are some of the questions that you added over here. So what should a player craft if they want to maximize collection efficiency?
Okay, once again, this is for collection efficiency. I'm going to add a note at the end very briefly about if you don't want to be collection efficient, but you want to be competitively efficient. But so for collection efficiency, and somebody Light High in the comments just mentioned Chill Tesla gives so much for free, your collection will grow naturally. That's the perspective I like to take on it. Here's the deal. Generally, you should craft epics and non-unique legendaries up to 2. You are likely to eventually down the road vis-a-vis packs and free cards pick up your third. It's very rare for a legendary or an epic to need 3 copies outside of combo decks, which is a new player you won't hit for a while. So if you have 2 copies of an epic or non-unique legendary, stick at 2. Don't craft that third one unless you really, really can't resist. Because you're likely to pull one someday. And when you're flush with soul gems, you can pick it up. You can finish a playset of essential rares, but you should definitely avoid. And this goes into the you shouldn't craft. You should not craft commons and non-essential rares or rares that are 1 or 2 O's. Just try to avoid crafting commons and rares because they're not. You're going to get a lot of those through packs and through free cards that will drop. And so it's not really a good use of your precious crafting material, your soul gems. Personally, I would recommend not crafting unique legendaries because once you have 1 copy, any other copies that you get you can't use them, so you would have to dust them for a quarter of their value, right? So unless you really need that unique legendary. And sometimes, yes, and I would break my own rule when I was a new player, and I'd say, man, I really need Tazcad. He's a big finisher. Fine, I'm going to craft Tazcad, right? But as a rule, I did not craft Nahagleave. I did not craft, because the other thing is, in a 50 or even a 75 card deck, when you get to playing tricolors, you're not likely to find that 1 card every game. Therefore, that 1 card is not essential to your game plan.
Mm-hmm.
So I would generally recommend avoiding unique legendaries and just get really hype when you pull them from packs. And then I would also, if you want to truly maximize efficiency, look at the starter decks before you craft. Because if you look at the starter decks and you know the next one you want to get happens to have that Hive Defender in there, that you're like, man, I was about to craft this Hive Defender, but this starter deck has 2 of them, right? You don't want to overlap with a starter deck that you're down the road going to buy. So, and there's some times where that'll happen, but that's just if you want to maximize your collection efficiency. Those are some quick tips to do that. The last thing I want to say, if you want to maximize how quickly you can get a top tier competitive deck, you can do what I did. And again, I sort of regret this, but like 2 to 3 years ago when the game was like still in the base set, I got all these cards and I was looking at them. I was like, man, I really want to build like a good deck. I want to jump in there. I'm a competitive person. I can't help myself. So what did I do? I picked the color that I liked the least and I dusted everything in that color. I still do that in Hearthstone, which I play much more casually. I can't keep up with all of it. So what do? I hate Druid. I dust everything in the Druid class. So I dusted everything in yellow when I first began. I said, I'm going to focus on these other colors and all these other color combinations. And it allowed me to craft up things like Tazcad and some of the other, epics and stuff that I wanted, the Earthbone spinners that I needed for my Archer deck, stuff like that. So if you are set on doing it, that is just one sort of personal thing that I did, and it did get me to a top tier deck faster.
All right, let's go ahead and move over to the Q&A section. I'm running short on time myself on my end, so we're gonna go ahead and cut this short. I'm sorry, guys. We'll not do this next week, I promise. So we'll give about 5 minutes of Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. And then we're gonna go on ahead and wrap up the stream talk show. And if you guys missed the beginning part, we will be uploading this to Dead Broke Nerds YouTube channel later on in the day. We do stream this at 11 a.m. EST. That's 4 p.m. GMT every single Wednesday, except for maybe some exceptions where somebody might be gone. So does anybody have any questions of us? If you have any questions for me, ask me. If you have any questions for Dead Broke Nerd, ask him as well.
Hooray. are we doing just while we're waiting for a
Oh, there
question?
we go.
What are we working on next week as a spoiler?
Next week, I have no idea.
Okay, we don't have any idea. I wasn't
All
sure
right.
if you had a plan or not.
No, no, no. Okay. Do you know anything about the plans that the developers have to release large sets? They're going to be releasing the expansion pack for. They're going to be releasing the expansion pack for the Shivering Isles.
That's it. Yeah,
I
I
don't know
couldn't
when
think of
that's
it.
coming out. That's a story mode, I believe. I don't think that's a set.
I think it's a
So,
story set. Yeah.
so I don't. I think it's a story, so it's not going to be as big as like a set, like a Skyrim score set. So other than that, I have no idea. I don't work for Bethesda. We're just fans and content creators. Um, you have anything you want to add on to that?
Nope.
Okay.
But it should be 2 to 3 months because they haven't set a date yet, and so normally they'll set a date 2 to 3 months in advance. So we're looking at January probably, which would actually make sense because it's sort of a scary, spooky, like cold, shivering isles. I don't know. That makes sense for me, but whatever.
All right. When is the next big tournament? Do you know that?
Big tournament, no. Uh, Smaller tournaments, there's a weekly warp meta event that anyone, literally anyone, can enter. Go over to the Warp Meta Discord, jump in there, and they will get you the link. You can also go to I think warpmeta.com. There's I don't know. I mean, they're already doing like if you want to be in the big event, you're gonna have to start hitting those top legend spots, or doing scoring points by playing in Warp Meta events. Otherwise, you won't probably get qualified. There might be an open qualifier like there was for TRS, but bottom line is Sundays. There are Warp Meta events every Sunday, and the winner will get $150. Pretty cool. You know, if you're newer, you can still play in it and have fun and watch the stream afterwards. It's cast by different people every once in a while. Me, and they do a really good job with it, and so it's been sort of growing. And that's the main sort of tournaments that are happening right now. Not much else is official down the pipeline.
I'm just going to answer this last question, and I'm not going to do the closing video because I'm really running short on time. Usually we like play a song at the end, but I'm running short, so I
All
apologize for
good.
that. Do you think that this game is actually a little too easy? I've reached legend to build deck collections fast and actually quit playing because I find that because I didn't find it really challenging. That depends on the individual. If you don't enjoy it, then this is an example that I use to other people, and it's something I heard recently. I'm a pipe smoker, and a lot of people are like, "Man, I just can't get into pipe smoking. It takes a really, really long time to get into it. I really don't like the flavor of the tobacco, or I just don't want to deal with tobacco." That's cool. It's not for you. You don't need to do it. Not everybody likes pipe smoking, and it's just the same thing with beer. Some people like beer, some people don't. It's okay. If you don't like Legends, I'm not forcing you to play Legends. I'm a content creator of Legends. I absolutely love Legends. I find it challenging and I find it easy at times. It goes through different kind of metas. So, to answer your question, I don't find it too easy because my end goal is to become a top 10 Legends player, and I have not hit that yet. And when I do hit that, I think there's still more for me to do because I'm still going to want to make new decks. I'm still going to
Yeah.
want to do more things in Versus Arena. I'm going to go on ahead and want to get into actual tournaments. So it depends on what you define by easy, and it also depends on how you enjoy the game.
Yeah, just to answer Mark's comments. Actually, Mark, I think, was one of my. There was this, and I could be wrong about this, but there was this span several years before I got started with Elder Scrolls, where I streamed a bit of Hearthstone for about a month or two before my computer crashed and I was no longer able to do it. I think Mark was one of the people that was actually in my stream there, one of my first followers. So hello, Mark, if that was indeed the case. But either way. I think to answer your question, I disagree that it's too easy. I think if your goal is to build a large collection, be able to build whatever decks you want, then maybe so. Especially back if you started back when drops were more rewarding and more frequent, or even if you just played through when drops were around, it was really easy to build a new collection. And I will admit that I actually stepped away from the game for a bit because I felt like there was nothing else for me to explore. I was also insanely busy trying to graduate college, so there's a couple mitigating factors. However, I think reaching legend is not necessarily like it's cool, but it's not necessarily a benchmark, like a worthy benchmark for how hard the game is. Right now, there are admittedly less players than there was when the game started. And I think also Legend is a more of a, and I've said this for a while, if you are a competent player, you don't have to be an amazing player. You just have to be a competent player. And I don't mean this as an insult at all. Okay. I've made Legend and stuff. And I think the first time I made Legend, it was more because I was competent, not really good yet. Right. You have to be a competent player. You have to have a decent deck. And you have to have time. And if you have those three things, you'll make Legend if you want to make Legend. Now, how high in Legend you make, that sort of begins to sort of explore how great of a player you are, how great your deck is, right? And even like some of those things, like, I don't know, I sort of like, I'm not the best player in the community. I think I'm pretty good, but I'm definitely not the best player. I made myself up to the like 50 just by playing on stream and just playing a good deck on stream. I wasn't even playing the top tier deck. I just think that Legend is not really a good bar, like a good measurement for how hard or easy the game is. I will say this game is shit tons harder than a game like Hearthstone. And I think, frankly, outside of like, top tier where it's a lot of like mind gaming, I think it's shit tons harder than Gwent. I also think that it's about on par, if not maybe a little harder than Magic the Gathering. So I think that if for you what interests you is getting new cards, then yeah, maybe the game is, if it's just exploring something new, if it's the novelty of it, which for me it sometimes is, then I think it may be too easy, and then thusly you may, not for you and worth stepping aside from until a new set comes in, which is actually literally what I did for about 4 or 5 months last year. I just had too much to do and there wasn't anything new yet, and that's fine. That's totally fine.
All right, well, we're about out of time, so we're going to go on ahead and end it here. Go on ahead, as I just posted here in the chat, if you guys have any recommendations for a show, or if you guys want to ask any questions, go on ahead and at me at MAJ_Broski. This will be uploaded to Dead Broke Nerds YouTube channel later. I am so sorry that I have to wrap this up so fast. I would spend more time if I had it, but it is completely Major Broski's fault. So go on ahead, come in next week for 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time or 4 p.m. GMT. Check out the talk show, like I said, on Dead Broke Nerds YouTube channel. If you guys have any questions, check the Twitter. And that's it. So anything that you want to add on to that?
No, guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us today. And if you have someone new that's getting into the game, you can send them on over to the YouTube page where they can check out this video and learn right along with us.
All right, guys. Peace out. Life. Until next time.